Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues, and good afternoon, evening, Nebraskans. I have been working on this bill for over 4 years now, and I have met with Speaker Hilgers and the governor, and over the years, done everything I can to make this bill work for the body. And this year, Governor Ricketts was willing to meet with me, which was great, and Speaker Hilgers has been great to work with. And I made it clear to both of them that LB121, colleagues, is my only ask this year. I'm willing to deal, I'm willing to figure out paths on other things, because LB121 this year is not just my priority, because we have to pick a priority, it's my only ask. This bill has the support of the Omaha Police Officers Association, the Catholic Conference, as well as, the usual advocates that we see coming up for anti-poverty issues like RISE Nebraska, the ACLU, Together, Nebraska Appleseed. And this bill is really an example of folks coming together around an issue in a way that we don't frequently see here in this body, so I'm very proud of that. This bill is also modeled after language in Texas, so LB121 is basically the same policy that they have in Texas right now that I'm asking us to adopt. So what is it? Under current statute, an individual with a conviction for drug distribution or 3 or more felony convictions for possession or use of a controlled substance is ineligible for life to receive SNAP benefits. SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, sometimes called food stamps. I like to not call it food stamps because I think it perpetuates some confusion and misinformation about what SNAP really is. It's not a stamp, it's a EBT card, but that's what SNAP is. LB121 removes this lifetime ban and ties SNAP eligibility for people with these convictions to parole, probation, and post-release supervision, the terms of which include mandatory treatment and counseling for drug addiction and drug testing. These people also have to pay for those drug tests themselves, and they have to refrain from unlawful conduct, which would include drug use. So by tying eligibility for SNAP to probation, parole, and post-release, puts more control in the hands of judges to make sure that people are getting the right treatment that they need. Colleagues, the intent of this bill is to remove a major barrier for successful integration for formerly incarcerated people, while also reducing hunger for affected people and their families. This bill is really personal to me, and I know the effects that it's going to have for Nebraskans today and for Nebraskans in the future. We know that the population that utilizes SNAP is really diverse. I relied on SNAP when I was divorced and I was struggling as a single mom, and I was very young, and I turned to public assistance for a temporary hand up, as thousands of other parents have done in Nebraska for a variety of reasons out of their control. So I'm very personally familiar with the process of applying and qualifying for SNAP and what the requirements are to receive it. These here at my desk are 2 of my SNAP cards. One of them is the regular SNAP card that you get when you get approved, and the other one is a temporary benefit for school-aged children that I also received at one point. And if any of you want to come over and see them, this is what SNAP is. It's not a stamp that you can trade or sell for any other goods or services or drugs or anything like that. Come take a look, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the process. This is something that thousands of Nebraskans understand intimately, and that all of us as lawmakers should understand too, if it's something that they have to go through. Colleagues, these are people who have done their time. They've already done their time. It's wrong that somebody who can get convicted for distribution of marijuana at age 18, which, I know a lot of people who could have been convicted for something like that and never got caught, and probably all of us do. It makes no sense that somebody can get that kind of conviction as a kid, basically, and then be unable to receive SNAP benefits 15 years later if they need them. During the pandemic especially, I've been working on this since before the pandemic, but at that time, we heard from so many people coming into our office and saying, I didn't even know that I wasn't eligible for SNAP because of a mistake I made as a teenager, a mistake I made as a young adult. So this bill is more important than ever in Nebraskans to help recidivism, to help people get back on their feet, and to get the law in line with what the justice system should actually be providing for Nebraskans. One concern that I successfully addressed with several colleagues in this body was the fear that people with drug convictions could sell or trade their EBT cards for money, or they could commit fraud. And I want you all to know that there is no evidence to support this. There are already lots of protections that exist in SNAP to prevent fraud. And there's no evidence nationwide or in Nebraska that demonstrates a connection between felony drug conviction and a likelihood of committing SNAP fraud. This belief unfairly scapegoats and stereotypes people with drug convictions. And besides that, SNAP fraud is already separately addressed in our statutes. It's already a crime. It's already something that gets investigated. And so instead of incorrectly assuming that drug offenders are likely to commit food stamp fraud, which they aren't, we have no evidence of that, our legislature should allow existing welfare fraud statute to punish SNAP fraud. We already have a system for that, and it works. The creation of the EBT card, the SNAP card, when we stopped having a food stamp, happened under George W. Bush, and it's been instrumental in reducing the potential for fraud. Which is a great segue into another question that I've received from several colleagues about the basics of how SNAP works. To use an EBT card, you have to have a PIN number to complete the transaction at a grocery store. An electronic record of the purchase is created, just like a credit card, and that makes fraud even easier to detect and prosecute. A lot of places also check ID, which is, again, similar to like when you use a credit card. When you get your EBT card in Nebraska, you have to go through an online portal and create an online account, which is another fraud protection. And the SNAP benefit for the average Nebraskan is $3.67 per day, or just $1.22 per meal. And we have this benefit because for many people, that paltry $1.22 per meal is the difference between starvation, being able to go to work, and being able to support yourself and your family without having to recidivate or turn back to crime. It only becomes more clear what a great injustice this is when you realize that someone could have served time for murder, for rape, for robbery, child molestation, anything, and they would still be eligible for SNAP. But if you have a drug conviction, you have a lifetime ban on it. We feed our prisoners who are incarcerated. So a ban on SNAP for drug offenders must not have anything to do with their status as criminals, but rather their status as a drug offender, the type of crime that they did. And if that's the case, then I have to ask, what is it about being a drug offender that makes that crime more morally reprehensible than any other crime that we have in this state? Because these are the only people who are not permitted to receive SNAP after completing their sentences. It makes no sense to give people a legal disadvantage or a punishment because of a conviction when that punishment isn't even part of the sentence for their crime. Saying that someone with a drug conviction is ineligible for SNAP is an invisible punishment. Our courts aren't even required to notify people when they are convicted of a drug offense that this might affect their ability to earn SNAP down the road. For many drug offenders, that comes later, and they find out the hard way that they're going to continue to pay for this crime, this mistake, for the rest of their life by being unable to access SNAP, even though other formerly incarcerated people are allowed access. Mr. President, how much time do I have left?
1:20.
Thank you. This is a better system for people who have addiction issues who are coming out of our prisons. In a lot of ways, this could be considered more rigorous than what we already have in statute. What we already have in statute is that you have to go through a nationally accredited substance use treatment program, but in Nebraska, we do not offer those in our prisons. So when you come out of prison, you are ineligible for SNAP until you go through this treatment program. These treatment programs have huge wait lists. So then you are ineligible for food until you go through the wait list, and you're ineligible for food until you complete the program. You don't get any food when you're on the program. So for people who are addicted, who are dealing with the illness of addiction, the opportunity to be on parole or probation or post-release supervision means that they could come out and receive food stamp benefits immediately so that we don't see them going back into prison because they've robbed or they've went back to drug use or drug distribution because they didn't have any options to get food. I'm willing to work on the language. This is an important bill to me. Like I said, it's my only ask of the year, and I've done my best to bring all of the stakeholders to the table. I want to thank the Omaha Police for their support, the Catholic Conference, and all of the tireless advocates who have worked to alleviate child poverty and food
Senator.
insecurity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hunt. Debate is now open on LB121. Senator McCollister, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. As you may know, I've been working on SNAP for almost my entire 2 terms here in the Nebraska legislature, and I salute Senator Hunt on introducing this bill. It's what fills a big hole in our criminal justice system. LB121 is a good bill. Wondering if Senator Hunt would yield to a few questions.
Senator Hunt, will you yield?
Yes.
Senator Hunt, who pays for SNAP benefits? Can you tell us that?
SNAP is federally funded, and so if we don't take advantage of this in Nebraska, we're just going to be giving those federal dollars to other states that have expanded SNAP. So to Nebraskans, it'll cost nothing.
0 for Nebraska citizens, no cost to Nebraska?
0.
How about the administrative fees? Is that currently a split?
DHHS has said that they can currently absorb the cost of doing this into their current costs, so there's no fiscal note on it at all, Senator.
So, as I recall, SNAP benefits until September of 23, federal government picks up the administrative costs that the state would normally incur. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Good. Are SNAP recipients required to work?
Yes. All able-bodied adults who receive SNAP, regardless of your carceral status, if you've ever committed a crime or what, they all have to either have a job or participate in a job training program, and that's a state law.
So the handicapped aren't required to work, but they're tested. There's some way for the state to know whether or not they're handicapped?
Well, when you apply for SNAP, you have to submit a lot of different paperwork. So about your financial history, sometimes your medical history, which I think would be the case in the case of a disability or something. And you also have to do at least 1 interview. So, that ends up being at the discretion of DHHS.
Of all the people that currently receive SNAP, what percentage, if you know, are actually working?
I don't know that percentage. Do you?
Well, I think I do.
Okay.
It's about 80% are actually working. So, the feeling that some people have that these folks, those people receiving SNAP, are loafers and are taking advantage of the program just isn't true. Isn't that correct?
I agree with you.
So, well, it's a good program. It makes sense to me that those people coming out of the prison system, they have to work, they get food benefits, and they're less likely to reoffend. Isn't that correct?
Yes, I agree with that too.
Well, thank you, Senator Hunt. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, colleagues, for that conversation. This is a really straightforward bill. When I first introduced it, it was in 2019, it was much more broad. We've walked that back, first through conversations when Senator Sarah Howard was the chair of Health and Human Services, and at that time the bill was voted out unanimously from the committee, and we came to a great compromise amendment. Since then, we've seen many other states pass policy like LB121 with no bad effects. I respect Senator Slama's position definitely because it's consistent. She doesn't want to give government benefits to people who commit crimes. I would let her speak for herself in terms of her beliefs, but I would say that she has a consistent belief, and I respect that. I believe in second chances. I believe that the welfare system and the assistance system and the safety net that we have for people has to be separate from our carceral and judicial system. We can't use, the Department of Health and Human Services to extend people's sentences as criminals when they've already done their time. So LB121 just makes our policy a little bit more consistent in Nebraska. It's straightforward and simple.
There's been a request to place for a roll call vote in reverse order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Wishart. Voting yes. Senator Williams. Voting yes. Senator Wayne. Voting yes. Senator Walls. Voting yes. Senator Vargas. Voting yes. Senator Stinner. Voting yes. Senator Slama. Voting no, Senator Sanders. Voting no, Senator Pansing Brooks. Voting yes, Senator Pauls. Senator Merman. Voting no, Senator Mosier. Voting no, Senator Moorfeld. Voting yes, Senator McKinney. Voting yes, Senator McDonald. Voting yes, Senator McAllister. Voting yes, Senator Lowe. Voting no, Senator Linehan. Not voting, Senator Lindstrom. Voting no, Senator Lathrop. Voting yes, Senator Coulterman. Voting yes, Senator Jacobson. Voting no, Senator Hunt. Voting yes, Senator Hughes. Voting no, Senator Hilkeman. Senator Hilgers. Voting no, Senator Matt Hansen. Voting yes, Senator Ben Hansen. Voting no, Senator Holleran. Voting no, Senator Gregert. Voting yes, Senator Geist. Voting yes, Senator Friesen. Senator Flood. Voting no, Senator Erdman. Voting no, Senator Dorn. Voting yes, Senator DeBoer. Voting yes, Senator Day. Voting yes, Senator Clements. Voting no, Senator Michaela Kavanaugh. Voting yes, Senator John Kavanaugh. Voting yes, Senator Breezy. Voting no, Senator Brewer. Voting no, Senator Brandt. Voting yes, Senator Bostelman. Senator Bostar. Voting yes, Senator Blood. Voting yes, Senator Arch. Not voting, Senator Albright. Voting no, Senator Aguilar. Not voting. Vote is 25 ayes, 17 nays, Mr. President, on advancement of the bill.
LB 121 advances.